that's familiar with it, I think you're kind of psyching yourself up saying, hey, I'm used to this, and the guy across the line might not be. We'll talk about that more in some of the later divisions. Obviously, we've got plenty of international athletes. Some folks are more used to this than others. But I've heard multiple coaches in the run-up to this meet talk about how bad weather compresses the field. And so, like you said, somebody might catch a wild hair. An underdog might think that this levels the playing field, gives them more of a shot. And if there's any hesitation by some of the favorites on paper, I say it every time on air, Paul, we talk about the race on paper, but they don't run the race on paper. That's never more true when you have extreme weather conditions like this.
Well, a good look at the field here assembled in our first men's race of this championship Saturday. They do not seem to be worse for weather, but it is going to be one of those race days that they'll talk about for years to come here. First time since 2020 that Fort Dodge, Iowa has hosted this event. A lot of folks really excited to be here because that, of course, was in the pandemic year of 2020, and a lot of schools were not able to attend the event when it was staged here. So final instructions coming here for the I'm trying to see if there's anybody wearing 8-inch spikes.
Might have to go to the track bag for that one, huh?
And we are underway as we get things started on a snowy Saturday in Iowa. It is the 2025 NJCAA Men's and Women's National Championships, and the men in Division III now out on the course for an 8K run. As we get them started, we'll look at the full list of athletes that are in the field and assembled here. Of course, we'll do our best to keep track. We'll get splits, hopefully, Trevor, at every kilometer, assuming the timing systems are also surviving the weather conditions out here. But, again, it's a great thing about cross country. There are two races to follow. Obviously, the folks trying to win individual national titles, and then watching how the teammates behind them are either in a pack mentality or working as hard as they can to get a low stick and give that team a chance to win a trophy.
Yeah, I always give full credit to the timers. I mean, it definitely makes our job a lot easier to kind of identify what's going on and not just get the individual splits through those different points, but also kind of counting the team battle as we go along. And a lot can change, obviously, from 1K to the next, but you mentioned the course in the preview, and as we said, it's on a golf course here. Not a ton of huge hills or really, iconic big moves or things like that, but you're already seeing a bunch of twists and turns. I kind of liken it to maybe an F1 course, right, where you ball up a circle of twine in your hand and throw it on the ground, and that's the course. So there are some twists and turns, there are some undulations, and you have to be just cognizant, I would say, of the footing here because it's changed so quickly from that beautiful day yesterday that there could be a potential danger of some slip and slide, especially if you're trying to run close to the tangent or if you're in a little bit of a crowd. That definitely could come into play.
And as you note, the Gator on the lead pack, getting away from them just a little bit, but as out of an abundance of caution here, everyone kind of out on the course for the first time and just making sure that last thing we want to do is have that lead vehicle get in harm's way of that group of runners that are in the background here. We will get our first split at 1 kilometer and be able to reset the field here in the early going. Again, 8 kilometers for the men today, 5 kilometers for the women in what is proving to be a rather classic cross-country day in the Midwest.
Well, you said it. I mean, these are sometimes some of the most memorable. Of course, the race itself makes a meet memorable and the individual memories for the competitors, but as fans and commentators and coaches and people watching, sometimes when there's that external factor of the weather, it kind of burns itself into your mind. But yeah, I hope the Gators got its snow chains on here today. At least there's no dust kicking up from out front. How about that?
That's true. A little bit of two box there for you as you see the field in the lower from that camera situated at that point of the race. 3.5 minutes now here in as the group works through. I mean, the other challenge here is just to make sure you're staying on the course, because the course lined yesterday as best it could, but right now, as you can see, this is a winter wonderland in Iowa. Just 24 hours later from beautiful sunshine on that first day.
Yeah, you talk about course familiarity, and that does matter, of course. But as you can see, this is not the same course it was yesterday. So even if you ran your shakeout here yesterday, you maybe made some mental notes. I always like to talk about, especially in cross country, it's not the same as on the track where you can just talk about distance. Hey, it's a 5K. I'm going to make my move at 400 out, 600 out, a mile out, whatever the case may be, and you can just think in terms of distance. Obviously, you can talk about distance here, but a lot of times it helps to have that visual cue to say, when I make this turn, I'm really going to hit it, or on this downhill is where I'm going to push the pace. And you still have some of those visual cues, but I think it may introduce a little bit of a timidity or hesitance for some of these athletes that may kind of throw a wrench in the plan.
As we've reconnected our signal from that lead gator out ahead of the leaders, you see the solo runner there in front, still waiting to identify him, as have not gotten any live splits from the front here. We'll give it a moment and see if we can see that bib coming into view, but he's got a good chase pack behind him, Trevor.
Yeah, it's a bit of a gap, nothing too crazy just yet.
Looks like maybe 13:20. And that would be Julian Borst of Kellogg, if that is indeed him. And again, just doing our best, as you all are watching at home, as we try to identify these folks. They, as you saw, went through that first mile mark, and so looks like that first kilometer split was not activated, which can be explained by the conditions here. So we'll do our best to get this full field identified as they work their way through this second mile. Again, 8K to be covered today by the men.
Well, that gives us a chance. I mean, we could talk about this team battle once again with Harper. I say battle, but if they do what they're capable of, and I'm not going to say this is a huge variable for them, for a team from Illinois. And to be fair, the top three teams, like we said, are all from Illinois and are used to kind of these conditions, I would say, year in and year out. Of course, not year-round, but this is kind of what you deal with as a cross-country runner in the Midwest. And they've got 4 of the top 10 individuals this year, Harper does. They were second last year by only 6 points, and they won the year before. And, you talked about their great stretch. Keenan mentioned in the preview that, looking for their 10th title in 14 years. So they have the depth. They have kind of that dynasty that's been built over the last decade and a half or so. But they really want to avenge that close loss from a year ago.
Down below in that corner, you see the athletic course tracker. Gives you a sense of where they are out on that course as they work between the second and third kilometers. They kind of do the 2 4K loops here, Trevor, so they'll see the second half of the race a bit more familiar, and at least they'll have a degree of confidence that they've covered some of that ground and some of that undulation before. But you can see it here that, this group is still fighting through the conditions on the ground and the snowfall that continues to fall here in Fort Dodge, Iowa. Division III NJCAA Men's Cross Country Championship here at 8 kilometers. And, broader story here, too, Trevor, we can talk about, and we'll probably talk about this throughout the day. Junior college offering so much opportunity for student athletes to continue their, careers after high school. And, these divisions, some of these folks we'll talk about may end up in Division I programs eventually, or in larger schools after the junior college experience. But all of these folks getting a chance to compete at the next level and race for a championship today.
It's kind of another tryout of sorts. There's a lot of coaches watching. These are athletes that have been in contact with, 4-year programs at every level. And I love that we're getting to highlight the different divisions, even within the NJCAA. Not everybody knows that there are multiple divisions here at the cross country level, and I always talk about this as a small school guy myself. There's the NAIA, there's Division I, Division II, Division III. There's so many great track programs and cross country programs throughout the country that, look far and wide. If that's something you want to do to continue your career at whatever level it is, definitely keep the sport going. And it's just a great participation sport, and that's what we get to see here on display today. Borst is fading a bit now as the lead pack's coming past him. He might have gotten a little ambitious early on.
Yeah, Evan Schaefer is among the leaders now, bib 14.08. He's in the Titans jersey to the left side of your screen. And then 12.65.
Sebastian Welk, I think, there for Harper, yeah.
Yeah, the freshman for Harper. And Nathan Sarletti is also up in that lead group, the defending champion now, trying to do it back-to-back here in his sophomore campaign for Joliet. And so some of the pre-race favorites, Trevor, now kind of rising to the front of this. But, as I see them make these turns, you kind of hold your breath. And, more often than not, we're seeing seeing that level of concern on much wetter courses. But, this is equally slick, particularly because it's on a golf course, too, where the turf underneath, depending on where they are on the course, fairway versus, out in the rough, longer the grass, more snow on the ground, more chance for lack of gripping.
Yeah, I especially think with that first snow, it's kind of slick. Like I said, it changed so fast from yesterday, and just, we were kind of chuckling in the studio and as we were talking before going on air, how beautiful that day was yesterday. But the cross-country gods, I suppose, blessed us with this beautiful Midwest snowy day for some true cross-country.
Well, Trevor, we are starting now to get some splits here, so that's good news for all involved as we can pass on some of the athletes that are in the top of the leaderboard with Sebastian Welk of Harper leading officially after 3 kilometers at 10:04.7. And you see Evan Schaefer and Paul Clark out of Onondaga Community College. Sarletti, our defending champion. Adriana Quintero of DuPage among the teams trying to win another national title here. Ryan Golden, Julian Borst, Tristan Weaver, and Alan Arnold, with Gavin Carlson rounding out the top 10. And then we start to see those teams populate their full complement of team scores, and right now it is a battle between those 3 schools that we talked about at the beginning of the show: Harper, DuPage, and Joliet.
Well, the in-state rivals, they know each other well. You see a good close-up here now, getting a chance to see everybody powering along. And so much of cross-country, especially on the full 8K course, is just about patience. And I like what you said earlier about getting to know, when you have a course that's a loop like this, you kind of know where you're at that first time. You can zone in. Sometimes it's a little tough in cross-country to really turn the brain off and just kind of not worry about your pace. When you're locked into the group where you want to be on the track, you can just keep going with the flow for a while and decide when to make your move. On cross-country, you have to kind of stay a little more locked in. But when it's a big loop like this, I think that familiarity actually does help, and you can say, okay, I got to get through this first loop, and then we start to make our move. You have your markers, and you decide when to go.
Looking out on that team score now, officially through 3 kilometers. Harper with a spread between first and 39th position. That are their top 5s, and a bit more of a pack mentality for DuPage, 5th to 25th. So Harper's 5th runner right now, though I note that their 6th and 7th runners are 45th and 46th, so they're running together, and still a lot of racing to go here, well over halfway remaining as you keep an eye on that course tracker and the current results that we have for you. And look at that. You see the change of footing and having to go wide there with a little bit more momentum and having to go down that hill. And one of those 4 in that lead group losing a little bit of ground momentarily, but now getting back into contact.
Well, that's the challenge. The combination of the downhill and the sharp turn that we mentioned earlier on, having to change direction and just not knowing what that footing's like, because this is all new. And truth be told, it's going to be new on every race throughout the rest of the day, because there's going to be more or less snowfall. There's going to be hundreds of athletes having run over this terrain. So it's going to really feel different, not just from yesterday, but from the race before. So it really introduces kind of a wild variable into each and every race here.
Sebastian Welk still there in that lead group with the dark sunglasses, blue singlet from Harper College. Evan Schaefer is there from Terrace State Community College. Paul Clark and Nathan Sarletti, our defending champion. Those are the top four. Then about 6 seconds back at halfway to Quintero of DuPage and Golden of Harper College. So we're into the second half of this race. Seeing the same part of the course again are these runners, so the little bit of familiarity on the second half of this race. Grace Court set up too as well, Trevor, for the other race within the race, which is spectators going from Vista Point to Vista Point. This kind of weaves its way nicely around the course, and multiple opportunities to cheer these athletes along.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that might be the footing we need to be more worried about. They're not in the zone quite as much. It's the race within a race. I like that. But you mentioned Evan Schaefer. He's a guy we maybe mentioned once or twice, but he's second fastest in Division III this year, so he certainly could be one to contend for Terrace State Community College out of Fremont, Ohio, another Midwest guy that wouldn't necessarily be deterred by these conditions. So watch for Evan Schaefer. He ran his 25:44 best all the way back in September. Hasn't raced a ton this year, but he's one that could make some waves.
See those team scores populating as well. Harper College now 2nd to 32nd is their spread. Good for 71 points. DuPage with 75 points, 5th through 25th. As it looks like Harper College's 6th and 7th men are fading just a little bit. DuPage with their 4th through 7th, all within 7 places of each other, so doing a nice job of staying in contact with each other. Joliet Junior College currently in 3rd with 89 points, and Mineral Area College next best in the order, just ahead of Thaddeus Stevens in that battle for 4th and 5th position.
Yeah, Jack Schultz down there in 9th for DuPage. He was 4th last year. Thought he might be a little bit higher up and may have some impact on that team score. Plenty of running left to do, certainly, and I'm a touch surprised, like you said, to see some of those lower scores there for Harper College. If DuPage can tighten up their grouping just a little bit, that might be enough to really challenge Harper, coming through with their 5th runner at 32nd. Harper's through that 4K split.
Well, we mentioned that streak that Harper had between in 2011 and 2018, Harper winning all of the Division III titles, then a little bit of a drought before winning 2 years ago in 2023. DuPage has won 2 of the last 3, so fitting that those two are doing battle here. Just 4 points separate the two, as we'll get to 5K here momentarily with the leaders Welk, Schaefer, Clark, and Sarletti, as they've come through just under 17 minutes on the clock, and Welk still with the lead, and still about a 5-second delta back to Ryan Golden, who is alone there in 5th position, trying to close the gap and get back into contact with about 3 kilometers remaining.
Yeah, Golden kind of in no man's land, about 5 seconds in front and behind him, so he'll definitely be trying to close that gap and get back with those front 4. But Nathan Sarletti, I mean, there's really not, we can't overstate kind of how impressive he's been in this JUCO D3. He was the outdoor track athlete of the year last year for Joliet. He won the 800, the 1500, the 5K, and the 4x8 at Outdoor Nationals last year at the Division III level. So this is somebody that has to be really confident in every part of his race.
Waiting for that 5th runner to come through for one of our squads here. Harper with 4 across the line at 5K. DuPage, Joliet Junior College still waiting for runner number 4. Now all 3 teams with their 4. So this Now starting to come down, Trevor, again, not necessarily who's running best in front, but who's running best in back. As Harper College and DuPage, as Harper now with 62 points, DuPage with 79, and Joliet with Junior College. So Harper strengthening its hold right now on the lead as they've got 1 through 28 is their spread. DuPage 7 through 26. Still with 3 kilometers to go. This is a 5K split, and those leaders in front still battling as well for a Division III NJCAA National Championship.
Well, let's revisit last year's championship. Harper College, as we said, coming off of their win in 2023, ended up second by 6 points to DuPage, 44 points to 50 points. So the grouping is so important. We talk about, we watch the front side of this race, and we give credit where it's due, of course, on the individual battle and the back and forth and the dramatics out in front. But like you said, it's those third, fourth, fifth runners that make all the difference. And when you're running as a group, if you've got 2 or 3 people within a small grouping of one another and they pass 2 or 3 people, well, there's a multiplier, right? So if you're fighting for front position and you're either second or third or fourth, that's a 1-point swing. But if you're back there with multiple people and you're able to move past a couple other folks in front of you, that can make a big difference. And when you have teams that are close to each other like this, again, last year only coming down to 6 points, that's where the money is really made.
Well, our 4 leaders still running as a pack. Welk, Schaefer, Clark, and Sarletti, the defending champion, the last in that quartet. We've just gone past 20 minutes on the clock on a very winter-like day in Iowa. Welk comes across from that corner with maybe a step or 2 on the rest of the field, but you start to feel like maybe this is going to be a decision-making point here with just about 2 kilometers to go. They went over that timing, Matt, that is buried under the snow just a moment ago, and Welk with the lead, Schaefer behind him with Clark and Sarletti, and now 9 seconds back to 5th place Golden, and it would appear it's down to these 4, and somebody's going to decide to take control of the race first, and we're waiting for that move now any moment.
Yeah, this is what we dream of, right? It's what we love as fans and people watching and lovers of the sport is getting to see the drama on the biggest day, the national championship. We don't always get it, but like I said, the weather, coaches have talked about this, the weather compresses the field, and I think that's true in the front, in the middle, in the back, whatever the case may be. We're seeing it here already and getting the day kicked off with a really exciting race.
And maybe a slight advantage to this being the first race of the day if you're the runners out on the course. I think the course is going to potentially degrade over the course of the day because this snow, when it eventually does get over freezing, is going to start to melt, and conditions could get pretty sloppy moving forward.
Yeah, I'm not a skier, Paul, but fresh powder, I believe, is what it's called, baby.
So Schaefer is the man on the left. And then Paul Clark has now decided to attack as he's going to go up one of these Iowa hills. There is some undulations here, and the Gator trying to stay up with the leaders now. But Paul Clark looks like he might be the one taking the attack point here early, as they're less than, call it, 1.5 kilometers from the finish.
Well, this is wide open for somebody to make that move, and there's a lot of psychology at play, the mental games, like you said, the ups and downs, and no huge, big hill, but some people like to go hard on the uphill. Some people like to maybe catch their competitors on their heels going on the downhill and really pushing on the gas. But if you can catch your competitors just asleep for a quick second, especially getting down to the last couple Ks here, make them react to you. As long as you know you've got enough left in the tank, that might just be the advantage that gives you the win.
And the one guy trying to stay in contact now with Paul Clark is the defending champion, Nathan Sarletti out of Joliet Junior College. Also thinking about that team race as well, as Sarletti takes a big look over his shoulder, trying to see where he is in relation to Sebastian Welk and Evan Schaefer. There's a look at the standings after 6 kilometers. Harper College with 60 points, leading DuPage in that battle for the national championship here. The winners of all 3 of the last 3 championships, having Harper winning in 2023, DuPage winning in 2022, and again last year. But Paul Clark now coming through 7 kilometers here momentarily, and he's going to have the lead over Sarletti, and it looks like it'll be about a 1.5 second gap as they cross that 7-kilometer point, and Schaefer now 4, almost 6 seconds now back of Paul Clark, and Welk fading as well. He's 9 seconds back of the leader.
Well, hey, we've been talking about Sarletti and what he did last year and how dominant he was on the track as well. Let's give Paul Clark his due. He was second in both of those races on the track, the 1500 and the 5K, to Sarletti. And so I think he was 5th here in cross country. So I think he's sick of playing second fiddle to Sarletti, and Paul Clark may say, hey, this is my day.
Yeah, Sarletti, though, has still got a pretty good bounce to his stride there, and he's, again, just trying to stay within contact. But now, even though you can't see it, you're running out of real estate as the snow covering this golf course cross-country championships course in Fort Dodge, Iowa, bringing us to the close of the NJCAA Men's Division III National Championship. And Paul Clark, currently with the lead, is getting funneled into that finishing line chute. It's a little bit of a long run to that finish line as they're covering the last bit of ground here to the finish line and a national title.
We've had good movement on the team side. We've had a great individual battle out in front. A couple of the favorites here still with a little bit of time to duke it out, but you're absolutely right. With every step, that real estate starts to run out. We'll see if Paul Clark timed his move perfectly or if Sarletti still has something left in the tank to defend his title.
Always tough to see it from a straightaway angle, but it does look like Clark has put on some additional distance now between him and the defending champion, Sarletti. And this is one of those deceiving moments of the race where you potentially can start to see that finish line in sight, but you got to gauge it because it's still the distance you got to cover. Full 8 kilometers, the men's championship distance here, but Paul Clark going to make another turn and looking like he is now in control of this race, just trying to not make any huge errors on these turns because the footing is just not something you can be confident of at this point of the race with the snow continuing to fall here in Iowa.
Yeah, he's got a lot of pep in his step. Look at the straightaway there on the athletic course tracker. I think he is gunning for home. He sees that 3-mile marker there on the, of course, that's, that must be the other loop there. But Sarletti, as you said, a little ways back. And I think that just may be too big of a gap. He's just running out of time. I don't think he's going to be able to defend his title. This is a really well-timed move for Clark.
Well, on a spectacularly epic winter weather day in Iowa, these athletes come to the line, and it'll be Paul Clark, your national champion in Division III here in 2025.
Comes down from Syracuse, New York. They have got a little snow up there as well, so he may have not been deterred by any means, but making it count here. Onondaga gets the win. Paul Clark with a great move over the last couple Ks.
And Sarletti, our defending champion, congratulating Clark there as they renew their rivalry on this cross-country course, and the champion from 2024 will get podium finish along with Evan Schaefer, who wraps up there, just coming in, finishing in 3rd for Terra State. And good news for Harper as 2 singlets come back-to-back across the line in 4th and 5th with Sebastian Welk and Ryan Golden. And we'll see if that will be the momentum that Harper needs to wrap up the team title, and that's what we'll keep an eye on here in this now closing stages of the Division III race. The rest of the teams coming across, trying to get their 5 guys to the line with low sticks to win the title.
Yeah, this is what we love, the organized chaos of cross country. Even on a clear, sunny day, it kind of plays out that way, let alone a snowy day like this where trying to keep track of everybody coming through. And as you said, there's Harper coming through, DuPage with a couple low sticks as well. 4th and 5th for Harper, 7th and 9th for DuPage, now 11th as well coming through with Zach Batchy. So this is going to be a good back and forth. It's going to come down, I think, to that 4th and 5th runner once again. Last year, as we said multiple times, just 6 points separating those two rivals. I think it's going to be another close one.
Yeah, Thaddeus Stevens with 3 runners across as well, but Harper now in our live stats with 4 across the line, 4 in the top 16. And just keeping an eye here on these runners to the finish line. Again, top 5 across the line will give you your final score. And is that another Harper coming to the line, Trevor?
I think so, yeah. I think it's going to come down to that 5th runner, and I'm not seeing DuPage through yet with their number 5, so I think Harper may have done it. We knew they had a little bit of breathing room, but what's so hard for us to keep track of in real time and kind of makes it fun is what those battles are going on in the lower places and the back and forth. I know coaches are able to kind of keep track of that as they're watching all those markers, but that's really where the meat is won or lost, and it was a good run from DuPage, but there's always a little shuffling here. I'm hesitant to always declare the winner just yet, but I do think that Harper put 5 ahead of DuPage's 5 and had a couple lower sticks out front as well.
Yeah, unofficially Harper College now with 60 points across the line in 4th, 5th, 14th, 16th, and 21st. DuPage with 73 points, finishing in 7th, 9th, 11th, and then 19th and 27th. So it really came down to 4th and 5th runners here. It looks like, Trevor, between Harper and DuPage as they renew their battle, and for the 4th consecutive year, one of those 2 schools winning the national title. And Harper, they're just going to kind of I guess you're winning even years and odd years, right? 2025 and 2023 for Harper, and DuPage going to be thinking about 2026 to win their 3rd in 5 years.
They'll just trade back and forth, I guess, but it's staying in Illinois. We know that much. So not quite as close as last year, but still a good hard-fought battle between those two. And it's always fun when, you see each other multiple times. You get to know each other as a team. You've got heated rivalries, and the teams clash throughout the season and year after year at championships. And like you said, who's the best on the day?
Keep this camera on the finish line for you so you can watch some of your athletes that you've tuned in to see, though in this snowstorm, hard to identify them until they are just at the line. Good battle there in the final few strides for those last 2 runners across the line. But results appear to be now official, but pending the final racers across the line, it'll be Harper College winning the men's Division III national title at 8 kilometers with 60 points. DuPage second with 73, and Joliet Junior College finishing in 3rd. Told the timers you're working on a couple of manual fixes to the official results too, so we always add the caveat that results are unofficial until they are posted, and we are waiting from that for that confirmation from the timers before we populate your screen with those official results.
Paul, if I'm watching this in
Christmas music underneath this,
yeah, I was going to
now.
say, I'm getting my snowshoes out, I think, for the next race if I'm lining up here next to come.
So there's a look at the top 9 in the field officially, with Paul Clark, our winner, at 26:50. Great performance over 8 kilometers considering the conditions out on the course. Arletti, the defending champion from last year, will finish in second, helping Joliet, looks like, get on the podium with a third-place trophy this year. Evan Schaefer of Terra State in third, and then Harper College with their tandem of Welkin Golden in fourth and fifth. Thaddeus Stevens, Tristan Weaver, and then DuPage with Quintero and Schultz of the top 9, with Alan Arnold of Hudson Valley Community College finishing in 8th overall.
Yeah, credit to Joliet and obviously credit to Sarletti as well, as second place this year after winning last year, but they were third a year ago as well. So one of the things I'll probably bring up multiple times throughout the day today, but it's so hard to really build these dynasties and legacy teams at the JUCO level because you only have athletes for a year or two, and there's just not a ton of continuity. You know, an old team is a sophomore-led team, right? And so being able to not just win consistently, but consistently be on the podium is a really impressive thing for these programs. And credit, of course, to DuPage and Harper and Joliet there as well, continuing to be top 3 teams.
Well, it's always a good reminder, too, as we watch some of these other athletes come across the line. You know, every one of these kids is racing in a national championship. I mean, that achievement alone to be celebrated across the board, and combine that with the fact that you're also running with your teammates, which is the great part of the cross-country season, to mention each and every year. This is truly a more of a team-based sport than an individual sport in many respects. And, again, a race that will be hard to forget, because I'm hard-pressed to believe that any of these kids are going to run in something with this kind of level of stakes in this kind of level of condition in their running career. Certainly not going to see this in Tallahassee at the World Cross Country Championships in January.
That's right. But that's one of the things, though, I always talk about. One of my favorite parts of cross country is there's so many more variables than just on the track, and love track and the longer distance races, but you know, you're running on the same surface with some slight variations depending on where you are. Certainly a harder or softer track, or a newer or older track, and you know, weather can be a variable, maybe your shoes. So there are certainly some variables, but in cross country there's the course, there's the turns, the footing, the weather, the precipitation. I mean, there's so many things that can come into play, and you're exactly right. The stakes on a day like this with the weather like this and a good, solid, challenging course, it just makes for some unforgettable memories.
Then you can see that team dynamic on full display here as teammates come to congratulate and support their teammate getting across the line here. These final few runners here. The women's Division III race scheduled to go off at the bottom of the hour. And after Division III, Division I will actually race kind of out of sequence here as they go Division III, then to Division I, and then to Division II. Talking in Central Time terms, the men's Division I race scheduled to go off at noon, followed by the women's race at 1 p.m. And then Division II scheduled at 2:30 Central Time, and the women's race at 3:30 Central Time. Again, 5 kilometers for the women, 8 kilometers for the men. There's a little bit of a break between each of these divisions, all 3 divisions here, Trevor, but kind of being treated as they're kind of their own separate national championships. And while we will not have coverage of it, noting that there's also a half marathon championship distance that, listening to a lot of the coaches talk about it, they'll have athletes run here, and then we'll bring them back to run in a team marathon championship concept, which quite honestly, having never done an NJCAA event before, didn't know that event existed.
Hey, that's part of the fun. I'm an NAIA former guy myself, like I said. So, the NAIA has the race walk, So when you look at guys that have made and women that have made the U.S. teams for the race walk, the vast majority of them have come from the NAIA, So there's opportunity not just at every level for the main events, but sometimes other events that get a little more focused than they do at maybe the Division I level. So definitely a really cool way to get to put your skills on display.
Trevor, at this point, I'm almost expecting to see Leonardo DiCaprio emerge from the snow in some sort of bear skin coming out of the coming out of the tundra. I can't think of another event that I've covered that I will say that we covered a U.S. cross country championship one year in Bend, Oregon, where they had to basically dig out the course after a pretty healthy snow, but these current conditions are quite a spectacle. So keep an eye on those finishing runners, but let's go back and revisit. It was actually, quite honestly, better conditions at the start as we look back at these highlights, Trevor, as the race unfolded. And, again, it was Paul Clark who showed patience in this race, and that patience paid off as he's now a Division III national champion.
Yeah, we had our early leader, but on the full 8K, you kind of let it settle over the first maybe 2K or so, and you see, the familiar jerseys, Harper and DuPage, who we'd been talking about. But as you said, a couple of these turns, a couple of the downhills, Clark just really exerted his dominance here. That top four ran together for a while, and then at the end, Sarletti, we thought might have a little something left in the tank to try to challenge, but at the end of the day, it was all Paul Clark upgrading his fifth from a year ago to take victory here and become a national champion.
So that replay of the finish below and the pretty good finish of live pictures from the finish line up above as these give all these athletes credit. First to final across the line. They are gutting one of these truly unique race days to the very end and getting a nice bit of support from not only the organizers but officials and support staff here. It's great to see, again, giving these folks a championship experience in conditions they couldn't have imagined just 24 hours ago.
Hey, cross-country fans are some of the most hardcore out there. We gotta give full credit to that. Credit to the photographers as well. We talk about an unforgettable moment, and I promise you that a lot of these pictures are going to get framed because this is a really, really cool visual, and they may be, slightly cold, maybe a little miserable now and pretty winded, but when they look back and they see some of those finish line photos, I think those are getting a frame around them.
The only person happy today is our drone operator, who knew coming out this morning there was nothing for that drone to be able to do today. Was not going to get up into those conditions, though. Would be cool shots to see it flying through the snow high above this group, and we showed some of those pictures of yesterday. It would have been great to add that coverage as it was planned to do so, and should conditions improve. I mean, this is the Midwest. This thing's going to roll through, and then on the backside of it, it could actually, end up being sunny again by later in the day, but we'll see how things unfold. Right now, it is snowing is about as hard as we've seen it so far today. And again, a reminder, our women's race coming up a little over 15 minutes from now. Division III championship on the line for the women. We'll see how that plays out here in the course of the next 45 minutes or so. Looking forward to the racing here. But before we do, let's check in with Mike J., who's with the winner of the Division III championship, Paul Clark.
First race of the day here in Fort Dodge is complete. Division III men. Paul Clark, Onondaga, Syracuse, New York. Is it kind of like being home for you in all this snow today in Iowa, I'm guessing?
Absolutely. It's just like used to running in this and paid off today.
So you were fifth a year ago. You go with the leaders throughout the last kilometer. You had inserted some pace and put some separation. Was that the plan going in, or was the weather play a big part in your tactics today?
I think the weather definitely slowed the race down. I thought it was going to be a lot faster. We were out pretty conservative first mile in like 5:15, I think, and my plan was just to go at the top of the hill after mile 4, and I started like at the bottom of the hill and just pushed it and ended up working out.
Well, let's talk about the conditions here briefly. Good, bad, indifferent, something you're used to? Obviously, it's something you haven't had this season, but was any of this a surprise to you?
Well, I thought it was going to be raining, and I think snow's a little better than rain, but I was ready for it and paid off.
Well, winners just win, don't they?
That's right.
Awesome. Congratulations. Fifth a year ago, you're champion today. Paul Clark of Onondaga.
Thanks very much, Mike J. We'll hear from him later on, the legendary voice of Iowa cross country, as Paul Clark took one big look around and then stepped over the finish line as the newly minted 2025 NJCAA Division III cross country championship. We'll reset things and get ready for the women's race coming up at the bottom of the hour. You're watching live coverage on RudderSpace.com.